Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Rukkie Cooks Season 2. I'm so excited to be reunited with you guys. Today we'll be making a delicious Nigerian Egusi soup. Staple Nigerian dish. If you haven't tried it before, you need to make sure you recreate this recipe. So the first thing we're going to do is start off by boiling our meat. So I'm using goat meat today. So to your pan, you're going to add in your washed meats. To the goat meat, I'm going to add 1 Maggi cube, a teaspoon of salt, and just half a teaspoon of curry powder. This is optional. It's just the flavors that I like to be added when I'm boiling my meat. So to our goat meat, we're going to add just a tiny bit of water. Normally you could actually get away with not adding any water and just putting the lid on and it will produce its own liquid. But because I'm going to be using some of the stock for this egusi soup, I don't mind if there's excess liquid. So I'm just going to add a tiny bit of water, just around a cup. Right, so our goat meat is all in there. We're going to put that on to boil. I like my goat meat very soft, so I tend to boil it for around 45 minutes to an hour. But however you prefer your meat, to cook it accordingly. So I'm going to put this on to a medium-high heat. And our shaki, which is tripe. To this, we're not adding anything other than salt. I don't use the stock of the shaki because I like to rinse it before. There's something about shaki water and cow foot as well. I really don't like the smell, but I like the taste of it. So add a bit of salt and fill up your pot with some water. So we're then going to boil our shaki again for another 45 minutes. Like I said before, however long you prefer, but I like my meat very soft. Plus, I have braces, so if it's too hard, I will break my brackets, so the softer the better. So bring that up to a boil. I'm using smoked turkey, so I'm just going to add my clean smoked turkey to a baking tray, and we're going to pop that into the oven. Now, smoked turkey that you buy from the butchers, it is already cooked. It's just to kind of warm it through and also to crisp up the outside a little bit. So we're gonna add this pop this into the oven just for 20 minutes and we'll add this to the egusi soup once it's cooked. So whilst our meat is boiling away, let's get started with our remaining ingredients. I'm using dried catfish here. So what I'm going to do is add some boiling water just over the top and leave that to soak up for around 15 minutes. You can leave it for longer if you want it more soft, but I still want it to hold its shape, so I'm not going to let it sit in the hot water for too long. So I've already grounded my melon seeds and I'm going to turn this into a paste. So for the paste, I'll just be using water, but I'm going to blend my water with some onions just to add a bit more flavor to the egusi. So I'm just going to chop my onion. I don't need this to be finely chopped. I'm literally just taking the skin off and I'll chop it into 4 chunks because it's going to go into the blender anyway. Okay, so to my blender, I'm going to add in 1 onion and my water. Like I mentioned before, all the measurements are going to be listed in the description box below. You should go to it after this video, after you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you subscribe. Right, so when your mixture kind of looks like a pina colada, you're going to add the liquid in. Add it bit by bit just in case you're not too sure how much water to add. It will absorb some of the water anyway, so don't worry if it looks too runny right now. So I grind my egusi myself, but you can already buy your egusi grounded. If not, just get the melon seeds and use a spice blender to grind that down. So once that's all incorporated, we're going to pop that to the side whilst we carry on making our soup. So I'm going to add in 2 tatashe peppers. I believe the English word for this is Romano peppers. Just remove the seeds because it might add a bit of a bitter taste to your soup, which I don't like that. It's so hit and miss. Sometimes you can open some peppers up and they have like no seeds in there, and other times it's like a Kinder Surprise egg. Now I like my food really spicy, so I'm going to be using 3 scotch bonnets. I'm keeping the seeds in for my scotch bonnets because like I said, I like it really hot. But if you didn't want it too spicy, take the scotch bonnets out and adjust the amount of chilies you use to your preference. Tomatoes. I'm just using 2 tomatoes here. This is all going to go into the blender, so I'm just going to roughly chop them. So, into the same blender that we used for the mixture, for the egusi, just go ahead and add in your peppers and tomatoes. And we're going to add half an onion. With the remaining half of this onion, I'm going to chop it down and we'll fry that off in some of the palm oil before we add this mixture to the pot. Egusi is actually such a simple soup to make compared to other traditional soups. I remember I was in Warri with my family and I was taught how to make oor soup, which is a traditional Urhobo dish. And boy, was that an experience. It's a lot more complex than this, I find. Soups like bangas soup, egusi soup, bangas soup, oor soup, takes a bit more of a skill, you know, that mummy touch to it, so it took me a while to learn. So we're gonna add half the onion to the blender. Add a tiny bit of water just to give this a good blitz. Okay, so to my pot, I'm going to add in my palm oil and allow that to melt down. I'm not going to overheat this because I'm not trying to bleach the palm oil. I just want it to melt down and then I'll fry my onions. Right, so once your palm oil has melted and it's hot, go ahead and carefully add your onions. This is a health hazard, so make sure your fire is not too high or your oil is not too hot when you're adding your onions. If it is, then step back. So I'm just going to give this a good mix here. So the palm oil is going to add a really nice red colour to the egusi. I don't like my egusi too red, but I like it to have a bit of a colour to it, not too white. So once this softens down, I'm going to add our blended tatashe and scotch bonnet mixture that we made earlier. So as this is boiling, I'm going to go ahead and add in 3 tablespoons of ground crayfish. I love the taste of crayfish, so that's why I'm adding quite a lot in there. 4 tablespoons of ground crayfish. If you don't like ground crayfish, then I kind of think you need it for this dish though, so add a little bit. I'm going to add in 3 maggi cubes, 2 chicken stock cubes, so I'm just using Knorr. This is what I use when I'm cooking anyway. And just a teaspoon of salt. So go ahead and pop your lid on. I'm going to leave this to simmer for 5 to 10 minutes before we go ahead and add in our melon paste. So whilst our pepper mixture is simmering, I'm going to chop the spinach that we'll be using for the egusi soup. Now I quite like a bit of spinach in my dish. Make sure you wash your spinach leaves very well with salt also, because I do know when you buy it from the market there is a lot of sand in there. So I'm just going to finely chop this and we'll add it to our soup just at the last minute. Spinach vegetable leaves doesn't take very long to cook. Make sure to not use the stems. I'm just using the leaves, so once you find yourself getting to the bottom where it's a lot of sticks there, just chuck those. I like to use solely just the leaves. Right, let's check on our mixture here. It's been simmering for around 5 minutes now. It's got a very nice red, rich colour. That's because of the palm oil that we used as well. I'm going to give this a quick taste and see if I want to add any additional seasoning. Perfect. It's spicy, but I like really hot food, I'm sure. Those of you that follow me on Instagram with my IGTVs, you'll see that I'm always adding a lot of chili to my food, but this is perfect for me. So, next thing we're going to do is add our melon mixture, our melon paste that we prepared earlier. Okay, so I'm going to add in our melon paste, just using a tablespoon. I'm going to allow it to form just, not necessarily balls, but just in clumps all around. And then we'll leave this to simmer for 20 minutes. I want this, the process is called caking. So this is how I ensure that my egusi is kind of clumped up. Just adds a nice texture to the dish. I wish you guys could smell this. The flavors I can't wait to eat. I'm going to be eating my egusi soup with pounded jam because that is my favorite type of swallow. That's just my oven going off to tell me that our turkey is cooked. So let's pop that off and we'll come back to that in a second. So I know that some people like their egusi soup to be more white, others prefer it to be more red. It's really up to you, you can't go wrong. There's not really a right or wrong way in terms of how your egusi soup should look. Okay, so don't worry if it comes out being more red. Next time you adjust it, maybe don't add as much tatashe peppers that you're blending, or if it's too white for you, then add less egusi next time and just adjust your measurements according. But like I mentioned before, all the ingredients and measurements will be listed below in the description box. So I'm gonna pop the lid back on this now, and we're going to leave this to cake up for 20 minutes. You need to make sure you don't touch it. So the melon paste that we made is going to absorb all of that yummy flavor that we've mixed into our pot previously. So just allow it to cake, leave it, relax, have a drink, and come back to it in 20 minutes. Right, so it's been 20 minutes now. Our egusi has caked up quite nicely. Just gonna go ahead and give this a good stir. Fantastic, you can hear the sizzle. So at this point now, we're going to add in our cooked meats. So the smoked turkey that we popped in the oven, as well as our goat's meat and shaki that we made. Now, with the dried catfish, so you just drain off the water that should have cooled down by now and add this to your pot. You're gonna give this a good stir. Look at that. Now, because I want a bit more liquid to my egusi soup, what I'm going to do is add in some of that meat stock that we saved earlier from when we were parboiling the goat meat. So just add a little bit in there. It's gonna also add some additional flavor to this dish. So at this point now, our egusi is basically cooked. I'm going to add in our spinach leaves. Give this a stir. Right, we're not making effort, so the spinach really is just to garnish the dish. Give this a good mix. And I'm gonna pop the lid back on and just leave it on a low heat just for an additional 5 minutes. During that time, we will make our pounded jam. So when preparing my pounded jam, obviously I'm not making the real pounded jam, you know, when you boil the yam and pound it. We're using yam flour today. A trick that my mum taught me is to actually start off with cold water. Now, it will take longer to cook, but it just ensures that you don't have lumps. It's a bit of a foolproof technique that I like to use. But go ahead and prepare your pounded jam however is best for you. Right, so we are ready to dish up. The egusi soup smells ravishing. The flavors are, I can't wait to eat. So let's dish up. Got all of that lovely assorted meat in there. The goat's meat, the dried catfish. Yum, 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 yum. So there we have it, guys. Assorted meats Nigerian egusi soup served with smooth pounded jam. Let's give this a taste. Now I eat my pounded jam with my hands. I don't use a spoon or a fork. It adds to the flavor, you know? So let's give our hands. Good rinse. Taste test. Mmm. 10 out of 10, if I do say so myself. So, let me know how you guys get on. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Rukkie Cooks. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel, and I will see you soon. Bye. And you should assume that it's getting hot. Joking.
You're childish.
Childish. I'm using dried also to crisp up the outside a little bit. Is it crisp up? Crispy. Crispy. Are you finished? Thanks, guys.
So you make it with cold water? Yeah.
I'm using smoked. Is it smoked? It's dried or not smoked? It's really dried. Okay. We are ready to dish up. The egusi soup smells ravishing. Ravishing is the correct word. Ravishing, what does ravishing mean?
Ravishing is amazing.
No, ravishing means hungry, isn't it?
No, that's ravish.
Google it.
Sounds hell.
We just use a different word.
No, because that's a nice word. It's a nice word. I still want it to hold its shape, so I'm not going to let it sit in the hot water for too long. Did you see how I was helping you guys here so that you can get close up? Cameraman, come here and watch me pour the water.
I can't because I get in the way.
Oh, okay.